Uh, Everyone's still alive. Good. Um, okay, so the next thing to do, the main is the 8 absorptions at the time of death. Um, so, but but one of the main things we want to do as we meditate on, each of the at each of the absorptions, there's many different things happening, different things, ceasing to function, like the earth element, and then together with that, the I sense consciousness, and then internal, external form we cease to experience. And then and together with those, there's external signs, like at the first absorption, it's what the person ceases being able to hold themselves up, and the eyes close. They can't see anymore. And then internal signs, like that's what each of them are named after, an internal appearance to the mind. First one is a mirage-like appearance. But anyway, so the main thing as we meditate on each of those, though the main thing we need to do at each step is be clear about what we want to focus our mind on, right? What virtuous attitude we want to focus our mind on so it's important to be familiar with what's happening in each of the stages so we can recognize, oh, this is the first absorption, the clear-like appearance, the mirage-like appearance. And this is the second absorption, the smoke-like appearance. But at each, as we recognize that, the main thing we remember though is, and at this point, I want to focus my mind on this, right? Whether it's, compassion or loving kindness or wisdom realizing emptiness or, faith in one's teacher or refuge or whatever it is that you've decided you want to focus your mind on. So, and so at each of those stages, we again focus our mind on the same thing. But because the mind is becoming more and more subtle at each stage of absorption, then our virtuous attitude focused in the way we want is becoming more and more deep and powerful. Profound, right? That's kind of the goal until we reach the clear light of death, the 8th absorption, which is the most subtle, most, kind of powerful kind of mind we can have access to. So if we can transform that into, wisdom realizing emptiness or compassion or whatever virtuous attitude we want, then it's incredibly like beneficial. Right? So before we start looking at and practicing and imagining the 8 absorptions, let's spend some time reflecting on what virtuous attitude do we want to cultivate at each stage, right? Just for 10 minutes or so. So I'll flash up the PowerPoint slide again. So when I presented the 8 absorptions, first we went through some general advice for the death process. Prepare by becoming familiar with what happens as we die. So that's kind of all of what we're doing. Clearly identify, so this is the main thing, clearly identify the main virtuous mental states that you want to focus on at death. And then practice generating these states repeatedly and imagine generating them as you are dying. And then make strong prayers and dedications. So the main thing let's do now for 10 minutes is 2 and 3 here. Clearly identify the main virtuous state that you want to focus on as you're dying, and then practice generating that state so that we can repeat that as we imagine the 8 absorptions. Okay, so now I'll just take 10 minutes and um, clearly identify the main virtuous mental state that you want to maintain or states that you want to try to cultivate and maintain as you're dying, and then just practice generating that. Okay, so for 10 minutes, meditate like that. Identifying the virtuous mental state you'd like to have as you're dying, and then imagining doing that, generating that as you're dying. So now we're going to start going through the 8 stages of absorption. We'll just go through the first one now in this session, but here are the 8. There's a mirage-like appearance, and smoke, and fireflies, and flame of a lamp. So those are the first 4, when the 4 elements absorb. And then there's the white, vivid mind sky, the vivid red, orange mind sky, the vivid black mind sky, and then the clear light of death. The first 4, yeah, again, these 4. And the first one's here. So I won't read all the words. I'll just leave the PowerPoint slide there. So if you want, you can look at. But the main thing is so what we'll do is, so imagine the kind of the scene of your death, a very comfortable, comfortable place. Imagine you're dying, great, and ease, without much physical pain, and in a comfortable environment, an ideal environment. But first, just imagine that. And imagine your body growing weaker. Or maybe it's been growing weaker and weaker for days or weeks or months. But imagine now it is clearly, your vigor, or your life force is losing strength, and clearly you recognize you're dying. It's definite you're going to die, like, very soon. And you accept that completely. Then turn your attention, instead of turning your attention towards like recovering or surviving, now you turn your attention towards making the most of the experience of death and the transition that it is, and making use of the opportunity that death affords you for spiritual practice. So then, clear, the first stage of the 8 absorptions is called mirage-like appearance. So at this stage, the element, the earth element of the body ceases to function. So that's related to all the solid parts of the body and the ability to hold oneself up, that kind of structural strength. So that ceases to function. So we can't sit up or stand up any longer. The ability to hold oneself up dissolves, and one may feel like one's sinking under the ground. And then at the same time, externally, the eye sense consciousness ceases to function. So externally, the eyes, one can't hold one's eyes open anymore. We can't see clearly. The vision becomes obscured. And then internally, there's a sign like a mirage-like appearance, like the shimmering, of the sun on hot sand in the desert, or on a blacktop in the distance. So there's a kind of shimmering appearance to the mind. So imagine that clearly. Recognize that this is the first of the 8 absorptions. And then remember, right? Remind yourself to focus on the virtuous mental state that you've chosen to focus on and you've been practicing for. And focus on that as single pointedly as you can. And imagine your experience of that is deeper than normal, right? And then remember, so again, you make a mental note to yourself. This is the mirage-like appearance, the first absorption. And then you also note next is the smoke-like appearance. That's what's coming. And then we can just briefly meditate on that one. So then the water element, the body absorbs, ceases to function. So the fluids of the body dry up, the tears, mucus in the nose, the mouth dries up, saliva in the mouth. So that's an external sign. And then hearing, the ear sense consciousness ceases to function, so we can't hear sounds in the environment any around us. And also the inner kind of ringing noise that's in the ears, that ceases. And then there's the internal sign of also the aggregate of feeling, so we can no longer feel pleasure, pain, or neutral sensations, or feelings, physical or mental feelings. And then there's an internal sign like a smoke-like appearance is what appears to the mind. So again, recognize, imagine these things happening, and then make a mental note to yourself. This is what came before was the mirage-like appearance. This is the smoke-like appearance. What's coming next is the sparks um, or firefly kind of like appearance. And then remind yourself this is the time to meditate and focus your mind on the virtuous state that you want to focus on. And feel like you have a deeper and more powerful experience of that virtuous state than before. Okay, so we'll stop there for this session. And I'll just dedicate and have a 2-hour break. So think of all the merit we've created. Rejoice. And then we can dedicate with these verses from Bodhisattva's Way of Life. May the blind see forms, may the deaf hear sounds, may the naked find clothing, the hungry find food, may the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness and prosperity. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments, and may every disease in the world never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting one another. May no living creature ever suffer, commit evil, ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled, or their minds ever be depressed. If in those who encounter me a faithful or an angry thought arises, may that eternally become the source for fulfilling all their wishes. May all those who say bad things to me or cause me any other harm, and those who mock and insult me, have the fortune to fully awaken. May I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. May a rain of food and drink descend to clear away the pain and thirst and hunger, and during the eon of famine, may I myself change into food and drink. May I become an inexhaustible treasure for those who are poor and destitute. May I turn into all things they could need, and may these be placed close beside them. May I be a protector for those without one, a guide for all travelers on the way. May I be a bridge, a boat, and a ship for all who wish to cross the ocean. May I be an island for those who seek one, and a lamp for those desiring light. May I be a bed for all who wish to rest, and a servant for all who want a servant. And until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach into the ends of space, just like space and the great elements such as Earth. May I always support the life of all the boundless creatures, for as long as space remains and for as long as sentient beings remain. Until then, may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Okay, so we'll stop there and have 2-hour and 15-minute break. And I'll see you when I come back. Yes, Anne.
Um, do we do something with Shakyamuni?
Yes, absorb him into your heart and he becomes one with you. You become Shakyamuni Buddha.
Cool.
And you radiate out Shakyamuni Buddhas from every pore of your body, and all sentient beings become Shakyamuni Buddha.
Cool. I'll see you guys at 2:30 then.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Bye.
Yeah.